Cardinals Corner from Arizona Sports.
Cardinals Corner from Arizona Sports with Tyler Drake and Lauren Koval.
What's going on, Bird Gang? Welcome back into another round of Cardinals Corner. And that is not Lauren Koval next to me. Instead, that is the Rob Fredrickson. What's going on, man?
Wow. Yeah, not much, man. Getting ready for football, finally. Getting ready for training camp to start. So this is a good time of year right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So former Cardinal, former NFL player, I felt like there's nobody better to talk about training camp, what you can get out of it, and some of the storylines surrounding the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So you want to start on the offensive side or the defensive side?
Well, I think the talk really of the offseason has been about the defense and what the Cardinals have done on that side of the ball to completely transform that defense. So I think that's really the main storyline going into training camp is what is this defense going to look like? Who is going to be on that roster defensively? Right. Because now all of a sudden, I think about historically the Cardinals the last, a few years ago, guys would get cut in training camp and they wouldn't get picked up by other teams.
And that's a sign. That's showing something.
Yeah. You're not going to have that happen this year. There's going to be some starters / key contributors that are going to be released, unfortunately, because it's a numbers game.
Yep.
And they're going to get picked up by other teams.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of those main position groups that I'm going to be watching is that defensive line room.
Yeah.
Because it's loaded now.
Yeah.
Loaded.
You think about last year going into week one, let me look here. The defensive line room, interior defensive line, they went into week one with 6 guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And there's a lot of names there.
I mean, look, obviously Darius Robinson, first round pick from last year.
He's good.
He's in.
Yep.
Dante Stills, I think, one
of the most underrated guys.
He gets slept on so much. Nobody talks about him, but last year, of all the defensive tackles in the league, he was top 10 in terms of win rate on rundowns.
Yeah.
Top 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was tied for 7th. So Dante Stills, he's going to be there, right? And then obviously Dalvin Tomlinson, key pickup. Calais Campbell is going to be key pickup. Walter Nolan.
That's 5 right there.
Okay, that's 5 right there.
That's 5 right there.
And now you got to look at Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols.
Exactly.
Those are guys you brought in last year.
Some of your key guys last year.
They really didn't perform last year. Nope. Injuries, whatever. They didn't perform. And so I'm looking at those 2 guys in particular that they're really going to be fighting for roster spots.
I agree 100%. I think those 2 veterans are very much, it's time to compete.
Yeah.
And especially if they're, God forbid another injury happens, but that's just going to hurt them even more. No pun intended there. But another guy that I'm looking at too is potentially a guy who could come up is this guy, Elijah Simmons, undrafted.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. Well,
huge.
Again, that position in particular, nose tackle, who are you going to have backing up? I mean, you got Dalvin Tomlinson. Who's going to back him up? I mean, I think Walter Nolan can do that and play that position if need be. But I mean, Elijah Simmons, he's a massive human being, and that's what you need at that nose tackle position. You need somebody that's just going to be stout and hold their ground and allow the linebackers, allow the athletes to free flow and make plays. And that to me is really the biggest indicator of success for this defensive line is shoring up that interior defensive line and the run stoppage. That was such a the last few years. It's been such a difficult thing for the Arizona Cardinals to stop the run.
Absolutely. When we're looking at, let's see, how do we want to say this? When we're looking at Calais Campbell, how big of an impact do you think he can really be to this room? And just your thoughts on him coming back and re-signing with the team.
Well, I think off the field, he can be a huge impact, and just in terms of his leadership, in terms of imparting all those years of wisdom on some of these new guys, on these guys like Darius Robinson. I think that would be a guy where maybe Calais takes him under his wing and really, shows him the way and shows him not just the physical things, not just the techniques, but just how to be a pro.
Yeah.
And Walter Nolan as well too. He'll really learn a lot and absorb a lot from Calais Campbell. But then on the field, I think Calais Campbell can still be productive.
I do too.
He can still play. He's a massive human being. Batted balls are a huge thing in this league, and those more times than not, batted balls result in turnovers. And so he's a guy that, he's 6'8". He's just massive human being. His waist is like at my eye level. And you ever see him standing next to Kyler?
Oh,
it's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah,
but I think Calais, he's meant so much to this team over the years, and to have him back and have his presence both in the locker room and on the field, I think is just, I don't know if you can measure it.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And just getting your perspective on it, being one of those veterans in the NFL at one point, like, exactly, you want to be able to give, and that's what he's talked about, giving back to the people, giving back to when he's dead, he can't give it away. So give it away now. So he's really like where his head's at, really like what he could give to these young guys, especially a Walter Nolan, just getting him really ingrained on just the day in and day out stuff like you mentioned. Yeah.
You know, what's interesting is, it's sometimes at a player's point in their career early on, typically, they're not really willing to impart that much information or knowledge to maybe some of the younger guys, especially at their own position group, because you're coming after my job, man. Yeah. So it's weird. It's kind of this dance where you get to a point in your career where you're confident enough, you're established enough and secure in your position, where you feel a little bit more liberty to impart some of that wisdom on the younger guys. But there's also a time where you're like, you know what, I still got to make this roster. Right. I still got to make this team. And so I think in the back of a lot of guys' minds, no matter where they are, they're always thinking about, I hate to say it, but they're thinking about number one, especially in training camp. They're thinking about making the team. Exactly. You got to be selfish at some point. You have to make the team first. Once you do that, then it's the time to really impart all that knowledge. Okay. For you in your career, when did you kind of start having that transition into maybe helping these guys a little bit more? Well, I always thought I went into every training camp thinking that I was struggling to make the roster. I always thought that, I had to give everything I could in training camp to make this roster. And I played in the league for 9 years, and I was a starter for 9 years. Yeah. So that, that right there tells you, okay, this guy doesn't really understand kind of how things work. But that was just my mentality. My mentality was somebody's gunning for my position. And so that, to me, that just made me try harder, perform better in training camp. And I think that's the mentality of a lot of guys is they don't, nothing is given. You can't take anything for granted. You don't deserve anything, right? You got to earn it. And I think Jonathan Gannon has done a really good job, and Monty Ossenfort too, of really creating competition at every position. You're seeing that. Even at quarterback, you're bringing in Jacoby Brissett. Yeah. This guy's a very capable NFL quarterback. And one thing he does better than most quarterbacks is not turn the ball over. And you saw the last couple of years after the bye week, Kyler Murray tends to throw and create some turnovers. And you can't have that in this league and be successful. So there's competition. You look down the position groups, there's competition at every position group. Yeah. And that's something that this team hasn't had in a long time. And so that gives me great confidence that this team is going to go somewhere and be positive this year. Yeah, exactly. And how you mentioned it earlier too is there's going to be guys that we're going to sit around and be like, oh, he started last year. He was a big name last year. He was one of those main figureheads, and now he's playing somewhere else. Yeah. And it's one of those, that's, I think, the roster churning. You're starting to finally see it kind of positive now. Yeah, you are. And again, you look at last year, week 1, 2024, other position groups like wide receiver, right? There was 6 wide receivers on this roster week 1. The nature of the offense for the Arizona Cardinals is such that their propensity is to run multiple tight end sets. They like to do that. They like to come out with 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends at certain times. That really limits the amount of reps. It limits the opportunities for wide receivers. So you got to make this team in other ways. You got to be a star on special teams if you want to make this roster. At the wide receiver position, at the running back position, you have to be a star on special teams if you're going to make this roster. Because last year they kept 4. They started the season off with 4 running backs, which I think is a little high. I'm more of okay, I can see 3 running backs. But if you're keeping 4, those guys on the back end better be stalwarts on special teams.
And obviously, you keep one of those running backs, DJ Dallas, you kind of know he's going to be return man, special teams guru. So, yeah, exactly. When we're looking at wide receiver, because like you mentioned, 6 last year, there's not a ton of, I guess, room with 2 tight end sets running a lot. Who do you think could come in and really fight for some more playing time? Because there's 2 guys in my mind in Xavier Weaver and Zay Jones, because Weaver can give you something that I think this team's looking for, and they just blow the top off, run down and catch the ball. And especially with what Jonathan Gannon said about how he's liking how his year 2 jump's already going and how he spoke about contested catches and getting bigger, just seems like he's poised to at least be a training camp standout, in my opinion. Yeah,
it's interesting about the wide receiver room because we talked about the multiple tight end sets that the Cardinals like to run. The focus on this offense is to be balanced, right? Is to run the ball, play action pass coming off of that. So to do those things, to be an effective team at running the ball, you got to have wide receivers blocking. And you look at Marvin Harrison Jr. and what he's done in the offseason to bulk up. It's not only just for the 50-50 catches and to really go up and fight for the ball. It's also to be an effective blocker. And you have to be in this league and in this type of offense. So you're looking at guys that maybe are a little bigger. And Michael Wilson, I think he fits that bill, Zay Jones. But, the smaller guys like Greg Dortch, okay, he saw his role really diminish, I think, last year. Again, because of the multiple tight end sets. He just wasn't featured that much. So I do think he'll make the roster, but what is going to be his impact this season? I think that remains to be seen. And I like what you said, about Xavier Weaver. I think he's a kind of guy that can take the top off of a defense, not allow them to. That's kind of the trend now in the NFL is to have those 2 safeties kind of sit back. 2 safeties high, keep everything in front of you, and handle the run with your front 7. Well, if you're pounding the ball and running the ball, obviously you got to bring a safety up and really get involved in the box and get involved in the running game. But a lot of teams, they fight that. They want to keep 2 safeties back, right? And so if you have a wide receiver that can absolutely burn and fly and run up the seam, that's going to occupy one of those safeties, if not both of them. And now you're really opening up those intermediate routes for Trey McBride, for Marvin Harrison Jr., and really opening up that middle zone and enabling the Cardinals to be successful there.
Yeah. And okay, getting back to Greg Dortch too, I think you're onto something there because his role is diminishing, and I think it's going to be much more of special teams because from what Jeff Rogers said, special teams coordinator, associate head coach, he said he's expecting kick returns to go up a lot, like a ton with the added 5 yards on the touchback. So I think he's going to be used way more on special teams and might be a sparingly thrown in there where everybody's mad that Dortch isn't getting enough targets.
Yeah, kick return, that's interesting because they changed the rule last year, right? And they shifted, try to minimize the big impact hits. And I understand that. So it's almost become like a punt in that, you're running with the guys kind of right in front of you. As a kick returner, the kickoff team is not 15, 20 yards away. And so the distance between blocks is diminished, and thus, the speed and the impact is diminished. So it's almost like get in front of your guy and just try and wall him off a little and allow the special teamer, in this case maybe Greg Dortch, allow them to really use their athletic ability and find some seams. So you're right. You may see more kick returns, and that, obviously that's an area where Greg Dortch shines in terms of just his athletic ability, his quickness, and his ability to change directions. I think he can do some good there. But a couple of years ago, when he was really vibing with Kyler, I miss that.
Yeah.
I really do. That slot receiver position where he could find the openings, find the kind of the pockets in the zones. I miss that, and I want to bring that back. Last year, it vanished, and I don't know why. But if Greg Dortch is going to have an impact on this offense, on this team, you got to get that reestablished. Yeah,
exactly. Because like you said, 467 yards, 2 touchdowns. That was in 2022, 52 catches. Like that's what you need out of Greg Dortch.
Yeah.
Not much more than that. That's fine.
Yeah. That's what you need. And you obviously expect a sophomore jump in terms of production from Marvin Harrison Jr. Not that he had a bad rookie season.
8 touchdowns.
You look at the statistics and he had a very good rookie season.
Yeah.
But if you watch the film and you give it the eye test, it just kind of left you wanting. It left you wanting more. And just because there's so much more there. And at times it appeared like he was a little timid or maybe unsure of himself, unsure of where he needed to be at certain plays or certain times within the route. I think you're going to see that kind of vanish now. Okay. I think he's going to have confidence is a huge thing for a wide receiver, and he's got to have that, and his quarterback's got to believe in him. And I think the relationship between Kyler and Marvin has evolved, and it's gotten better and stronger, and obviously Marvin's gotten stronger. The guy's huge. Yeah. And I think that's only going to help him. So I expect a big jump in terms of productivity from Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson. If he could stay healthy, I really believe he has the ability to shine as well as a number 2.
Okay. Yeah. Because, I felt like, we were just missing something last year with Michael Wilson. He was a little bit healthier. I think he was in 16 games, but just similar to what he did when he was injured. So, just take that just a little that next step. And I think you're right on with that. Looking at Kyler and Marvin in training camp, I know it's training camp, but what are you kind of looking at when you look at their connection? Or looking for, I should say. Yeah,
so last year you saw so many times where Marvin Harrison was maybe running a seam route on the outside, and Kyler would throw it back shoulder, and Marvin wasn't quite ready to receive it or turn around late, and it just the connection was just like a fraction of a second off. You saw that multiple times, a lot of times. And it's just timing. This league is predicated on timing, especially between the quarterback and the wide receiver, because the cornerbacks are so good in this league that you don't have that opportunity to have a 3-4 yard cushion in this. This isn't college. It doesn't happen that way. So when you're covered, it's up to the quarterback to put it in a position where only you can catch it. And I feel like Kyler, for the most part, did that last year, but for whatever reason, the routes and the timing, Marvin wasn't able to turn around at the right time and track the ball. So that's reps, man. That's spending time with each other. That's throwing nonstop in the off season and just understanding where each other, what they're seeing and where each other is going to kind of be within the play. And so I think you're going to see a big jump in terms of that chemistry.
Yeah. And Kyler, when I was talking to him on Cardinals Corner before the celebrity softball game, he even talked about, Marv and I kind of realized we weren't really communicating as well halfway through the season. It kind of clicked. And so now I feel like the end of his season was a lot better than its beginning, especially that week 1. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
So now you look into it. Yeah, exactly. Off the field. How can you, I think people don't give that enough credit of getting off the field and really knowing the person that you're playing with could do wonders for just that chemistry moving forward on the field.
Yeah. And you saw, since Jonathan Gannon was hired as head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, you saw almost instantly a shift in Kyler Murray in terms of his leadership. At least I saw it.
I agree.
It was historically, it was a season's over, I'll see you at training camp.
Yep. I'm going to Texas.
You're going to Texas, you won't see me.
Yep.
It's not like that anymore.
Not at all.
He's there all off season. He's here all off season. He's taken guys, taking his receiver group to USC, I think this year. UCLA last year. He's really making an effort to become that leader and to really get to know his teammates better and not just be a quarterback for hire.
Yep.
And that is everything to this league because, well, like it or not, your quarterback is the leader of the team. Whether he's got a C on his chest or not, your quarterback has to be your leader. Yeah. He has to be. And you've seen Kyler evolved into that role. And it was, at times, it was a suit that he didn't feel comfortable in. Yep. It really was. You could see it. It was uncomfortable for him, his body language. It's not like that anymore. And that's really been a good shift, and I attribute a lot of that to Jonathan Gannon. Yeah. And when he came in here, just getting everybody bought into the culture and what he was trying to sell. And clearly you can see that Kyler is bought in and he's got everybody along with him. Yeah, and it almost seems like I think what's helping click between those two guys is just the fact that I think Gannon's letting him lead the way he wants to lead. It's not, hey, you need to go be that rah-rah guy. You need to go be this dude. You need to really show that you're the leader. It's, no, go lead the way you want to do it, but actually go lead. Yeah. And I think that's been the big thing right there. Instead of, Kyler, not the leader, that's the headline all the time. And instead he's leading, he's just doing it in a different way. Yeah. He's not being the I'm trying to think of an example at Tebow's or something like that, where they're gonna yell at you and get you jacked. It's like, you know what you need to go do, go perform. I'm right there behind you. Yeah. Yeah. It just seems like Kyler is so much more comfortable in his own skin and in that regard in terms of the leadership role. And it's good to see because what's interesting, you talk about the offseason and everything that's happened in terms of who they brought in, which is basically everyone defensively. Yeah. They just said, we're running it back with our offense. They virtually made no changes to the offense. And so essentially, I think what they're saying to Kyler and to the offensive players is, we have the talent on offense. You guys just got to go out and execute. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to. You got to go out and execute, make sure the plays are the right plays are being called at the right times. But at the end of the day, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes, not the X's and the O's. So the players have to perform. Yeah. Yeah. It's put up or shut up time for sure. Jacoby Brissett, probably their biggest offensive addition this offseason. So that shows you it's go time. And Kelvin Beachum joined the podcast. He said, it's go time. We've got the pieces. You can see from how they constructed everything that the offense really doesn't have excuses anymore. Yeah. There's a lot of continuity. Go win football games. Yeah, I love Kelvin Beachum. I love that, that he's back. I think he adds so much to that offensive line room, and just in terms of his leadership, but also his ability to play multiple positions. And when he does, I mean, when he comes in, if need be, he's a starter. Yeah, he is a starter in this league. Oh yeah, he's that quality of a player, and I hope. I don't know what's going on with Will Hernandez. I would love it if they would bring him back. I know. I don't know what the nature is of his injury or what the status is of his injury, but just to have him, just a mauler in there at guard, because that's probably. You talk about the offensive line. That's where I was going next too. One position that right guard that has the biggest question mark about it. Right? Easily. And so Will Hernandez, if they were able to bring him back, I think that would be huge because, Isaiah Adams in his second season, this is an opportunity for him. They're giving him an opportunity to win that job, but they're not giving him that job. No. I think he struggled at times last year, kind of got overpowered at times, but that's a difficult position to be kind of thrown in to the fire as a rookie. Offensive line takes a long time for a lot of guys to really understand and to really play it effectively, especially when you're going against a caliber of defensive linemen in this league. It's the one position on that offensive line that is still a little unsettled. Yeah. And so that's certainly going to be a storyline in training camp. Yep. Isaiah Adams had 5 starts to end the year. Exactly. It seems like it's his job to lose.
But like you said, it's going to be a competition. They brought in Royce Newman. They brought in some of these other guys that could come up there and challenge him. But I'm with you too, man. I would love to hear more about what's going on with Will Hernandez, because not even like elsewhere, I haven't heard anything. Just any other teams or anything. So they bring him back. That offensive line is just the continuity part of it. It's so set up. I mean, you've got Evan Brown on the other side. That he's locked in. Yeah. So I'm very interested to see how it happens if there's a training camp, late edition, something like that, because you can never have too much depth.
Yeah, I don't know if they still have that rule that you can bring back a veteran after the first week. Okay. And then their salary is not guaranteed. I think that sometimes you'll see teams do that where they wait until after the first week and then they bring back veterans so they don't have to guarantee that salary. But I don't know. Somebody like a Will Hernandez.
I wouldn't think they would. Yeah.
Why mess around with it but I don't know. I don't know the status of his injury.
Yeah, that's the unknown.
Maybe he's just not healthy. I don't know. But I got to imagine if he's healthy, who wouldn't want him to be a part of their plans? Yeah,
multiple people had to be reaching out to him if he's good to go or on a path to be good to go by training camp. Yeah. So we got Isaiah Adams. Let's look at cornerback.
Yeah.
Because no SMB. He's done for the year with a non-football injury. Yeah. So it's going to get really young in that room, even more so.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting about the cornerbacks for the Arizona Cardinals, to get notoriety in this league, to get accolades, to get recognition, typically it happens a year or two after you've really shown yourself, you've really proven that you're worthy of it. And I think about Garrett Williams and just the season he had last year that just went so under the radar that this guy, I mean, if he can continue what he did last year and build on that, you're going to see him mentioned in terms of the Pro Bowl within, if not this year, certainly next year. So, you got him in there. I think Max Melton is ascending as well. I think he's a player that really is coming into his own and really got confident with the amount of reps that he got last year and really got that confidence, because that's so important for a cornerback, is just to have the confidence. So I really like him. And then, Starling Thomas, Keitrell Clark, those guys, those are good quality players. Obviously, Will Johnson, getting him in the second round, that could potentially turn out to be the steal of the entire draft, because he was. They were talking about him being a top 10 pick. And now I know he's dealt with some lingering injuries, ongoing injuries, but he's long, he's angular, he's quick, he's just got a knack for finding the ball. Yes. So that's the kind of cornerback that you want to put on the outside and forget about as a defensive coordinator. I got that wide receiver taken care of with Will Johnson. I don't have to worry about that. Now I can do some other things defensively. So to have a player of that caliber coming out of college, to me was a huge get on draft day for the Arizona Cardinals. So, the cornerback room to me looks good. It looks really good in terms of the youth, in terms of just their athletic ability. But the biggest contributor to their success is going to be the defensive line getting pressure on the quarterback. Yep. Something we haven't had, right? Yep. And when a quarterback can sit back there for 3 or 4 seconds in this league, they're going to dice apart anyone. Yeah. Any cornerback. You can throw every all-pro cornerback back there. You can't cover these wide receivers for 3, 4, 5 seconds. It's impossible to do. And I think that more than anything has resulted in the struggles of the Arizona Cardinals is just no consistent pass rush or pressure on the quarterback. Yeah. And I think they've done a good job in this offseason of addressing that and hopefully remedying that.
Yeah, and then when you look at the takeaway battle too, that could really help out in that regard. Just in batted balls, everything else with just this defensive line they've constructed is just, I think that's been the big thing too, is I think Will Johnson could be that missing piece to really turn these takeaways back into their favor and get them in the green instead of being in negatives with the giveaways and takeaway battle.
Yeah. I overall, I look at this defense and I used to kind of wince and look at it like, oh boy, what are we going to do? And to their credit, they played over their skis. They really outperformed, I think, for much of the season last year. But they had to do it with smoke and mirrors. They had to do it with scheme. They had to come up with
Buddha everywhere.
They had to come up with these unique defensive sets and personnel groups to really affect any kind of pressure or any kind of assert any kind of will on offenses. And now it feels like what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl against Mahomes. They lined up with 4 defensive linemen, and that's it.
Yep.
They won, and they just rushed the quarterback and won.
Yeah.
It feels like the Cardinals are trending towards being able to do something like that.
Yeah.
They don't have to smoke and mirrors. They don't have to come out with these elaborate schemes of who's coming, who's not coming. No, we're just going to line up 4 dogs.
Yep.
And we're going to beat your O-line.
Yeah, you're 4 versus ours.
Yeah, and I like that.
Yeah.
I like that our 4 dudes are going to beat your 5 offensive linemen.
Exactly.
And you're going to have a long day. So I like that, and I hope they kind of build that edge and just go into this season with that kind of edge that we're better than you.
Yeah.
Because on paper, they are.
They should be.
You look at them on paper, they should be a top 10 defense.
Easily. Okay. I do have a question, though.
Yeah.
What do you feel about Kaiser White not re-signing?
Yeah.
Because that one's along the lines of a Will Hernandez for me, just because of his impact over the years, being a mentor, being a captain, that kind of impact that he had on top of just being a dog, too.
Yep. There's no doubt about it. He was a dog, and he did have a huge impact on this team as a leader.
Yeah.
And he's a thumper. He was a guy that would come up and hit you. And that's, that's going to be missed. You're going to miss him. The one thing I would say about Kaiser is he struggled in coverage at times. And at a linebacker in this league, at that position, you have to be able to cover tight ends and running backs out of the backfield, and sometimes even perhaps slot receivers, depending on the coverage. You can't be successful and not be effective in your coverage skills.
Yeah.
You have to be, and I feel like that was an area of his game that. It just was what it was. And the Cardinals need to find some guys that really can pick up that mantle and take that. And you look at some of the younger guys at the inside linebacker group, like Owen Papo. I think he's a guy that he's twitchy. He's fast.
He's a freak.
He's extremely athletic. He's a freakish athlete. He's a guy, especially with the upgrades to the defensive line and just the attention that they're going to get. Now, all of a sudden, those guards and tackles can't get off of that double block too early and get up to that second level, get up to the linebacker's face. That to me is so important to really keep those linebackers free and allow them to use their athletic ability and run. And I feel like the Cardinals have that now.
Do you think it's Mack Wilson getting that green dot this year? You think maybe a guy like Cody Simon just shoots up the depth chart? Because it seems like he's the heir apparent.
Yeah,
my opinion.
I mean, Mack Wilson Sr. is so important to this defense in that he's almost positionless.
Yeah,
he can play so many different positions. He can rush off the edge, and so can Zaven Collins. From some standpoint, he could potentially come back and play inside linebacker if we needed to, if there was a roster situation. But yeah, so Mack Wilson Sr., I think he's a leader now on this defense. He has been, but he's really the leader on this defense now. You mentioned Cody Simon. I like what I've seen from him in college. It just, you got to go through training camp. You got to go through these preseason games to see if that's going to resonate and translate to the NFL. It's a different it's a different ball game. You're not playing against Purdue anymore. Nothing against Purdue, but things are a little different now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you gotta see if that can translate. If the game's too fast for him, or if he can really understand what's really required of him at that position, especially because that position, the inside linebacker position, that's a position where you really have to be the communicator. Mm-hmm. You have to be the one to really set and make changes based on offensive alignments or positional motions, changes, shifts. So we'll see what he does in training camp and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right. One more thing I got for you. Jonathan Gannon talked about more friction in training camp. Yeah. Benefits of that. I think it's pretty obvious, but being a former player, I wanted to get your thoughts.
So I used to hate training camp. Okay. At Vince Tobin, when we were up in Flagstaff, we had 14 straight days of 2-a-days in full pads, all practices, full pads, 14 straight days. You don't see that anymore. No. And there's a good reason for it, right? Is the concerns for injuries, and the CBA doesn't allow it. So you don't have that trauma on the body. You don't have that constant friction. You don't have that constant callousing of the body. Yeah. Which in some respects is vital. It is important. You need to callus your body in terms of just absorbing the hits and getting used to the contact. Yeah. Because if you don't have that, then when you go into week one, you're going to get injuries. Because if your body's not calloused, if your body's not prepared for those hits and the constant hitting, then it's going to break down. Yeah. So there's a happy medium, I think, where you can have too much, like we used to do, which is insane, or you can have too little. And I think what Jonathan Gannon wants is he wants to take it right up to the edge of the CBA, and every opportunity that is afforded to the team from the CBA, he wants to take advantage of that. Yeah. He wants to be in pads, and he wants to be thumping. Yep. Because that's the only true way that you can evaluate and assess the players that you've brought in, the players that you have, is to, especially on the offensive and defensive lines, linebackers, tight ends, running backs, you gotta see some action. You gotta see some friction in there to toughen these guys up, not just physically, but also mentally. Get them an edge. Get them so sick of hitting each other in training camp that they can't wait to go against another team. And that's really what you want. You want to build up in these guys mentally that they're so sick of hitting each other. They're so sick of the fights. They're so sick of just training camp that they can't wait to take it out on somebody else. Oh yeah, exactly. And like we already mentioned, Will Hernandez brought that every training camp, whether it be JJ Watt or whoever it was. Like that's exactly that on a daily basis, I think, is what Jonathan Gannon wants to do. He wants to fill that bucket, that physicality bucket, and keep moving for a huge year 3. So, man, we went through a lot of stuff there. Yeah. I can't thank you enough for joining. That was a really, really fun time getting your insight and really diving into dang near every position. Anytime, brother. Awesome. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Well, and thank you guys. You can always catch the show at AZ Cards Corner. You can follow me at T-Drake for Sports. Are you on social media? I am. I don't know what my handle is. Find him on social media. Give him a follow. And as always, thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next week.